Hello guys and welcome to another video. My name is Mark, I'm an entrepreneur and property investor. And in today's video we're talking about what impact investors have on house prices. And I've gone and done a bit of research and I've got a lot of very interesting data. So stay with me through this video. Hopefully you find it interesting. I certainly did. And if nothing else, it will give you a good overview of the housing market in the UK and give you some really interesting talking points and information. So as always on this channel, if you could possibly give this video a big like, it really helps me out with the algorithm. And if you haven't already subscribed, why not consider subscribing? Everything on this channel is completely free of charge. I don't sell courses and I have no other agenda other than to give the information to you and hopefully for you to reward me with a subscribe because you find this content interesting and informative. So guys, let's get into the video and let's have a look at the information behind the question of what impact do investors have on house prices. Now the first thing I sort of wanted to find out was what percentage of purchases were done by buy-to-let investors or just investors in general. And I did a bit of research and I could find that it was between 10 and 20%. I looked at mortgage approvals, I looked at data from the HMRC, I kind of combined all of that together and I came up with this figure of between 10 and 20%. And the record high I could find was about 19%, with a record low of about 8%, and a record low in London of 4%, and that was quite recent. So London obviously out of favour with investors at the moment. So if we said between 10 and 20% of purchases are made up by investors, then I think that's fairly reasonable. Now the next figure I wanted was how many homes per year were sold. And I went to the HMRC to find this information, and the year before it was about 1.1 million. So I think we're in that sort of ballpark. So if we assume every year that about 1.1 million homes are going to be sold, then we can kind of work out how many of those purchases are by investors, right? So if we look at investors, they're purchasing between 100 and 200,000 properties every single year. Now, obviously when investors purchase properties, some of them are going to buy them to flip them and they will go back onto the market, quite often being sold on to a residential buyer because obviously you've done all the work, you've uplifted the value. It's unlikely an investor is going to want to come in and buy that as a buy-to-let because otherwise the ROI would already be strong, so you'd probably be holding it. So in that instance, most of those properties are going to go back to residential buyers. But you know, we've still got a good proportion of people who are buy and hold, like myself. I've got 13 properties, a 14th on the way, as you know, and they're worth at the moment about 3.84 million. And to be honest, with that in mind, I've taken all of that supply out of the market and I've rented it back. So I definitely feel like I'm having an effect on house prices because I've taken that supply away. So what we really need to understand is what supply metrics are in play. And for me, the new homes built is a really interesting bit of information. So there's between 120 and 160,000 homes built every year, according to the NHBC, which are obviously the New Home Buyer Committee or Council, or can you look that up for me, Nick?
National House Building Council.
National House Building Council, of course it is. Man, I don't know what was going on with me today. Including the build-to-rent sector, i.e. the PRS, so people, big builders like Granger at the moment in Newbury are doing a big development. It's about 1,000 homes, but all of them are going to be for rent. You can't buy any of them. So that includes 40,000 of that sector as well. So really, there's probably only about 100 to 110,000 properties that are going to be able to be purchased by residential buyers every year or buy-to-let investors. So investors are already taking away more, in my mind, from the new homes that are being built. So the very next metric that was going through my mind was, okay, well, how many new homes do we need? What is the population growth in the UK? So the population growth on average, if you take an average over the last 10 years, is about 0.5%. It goes as high as just under 1% and as low as about 0. So, but it's about 0.5%, with last year in 2020 the growth being 0.7%. And I got all of these figures from the ONS, so the Office for National Statistics. And then the average people per household was the next thing that I wanted to know, and that's 2.4. So there's 2.4 average people in every household / home, which means that every year, if we're going to grow by 0.7%, which is 460,000 people, we need approximately 191,000 new homes every year. Now, obviously looking at this, we're not building enough homes, and that's been the case for a long time. So if you look at the supply and demand curve, if you've got an excess in demand and you've got a reduction in supply, i.e. supply isn't meeting demand, prices go up. I mean, this is very basic economics. So just looking at this data alone, we can assume that prices are going up. Then we take into play the investor side of things, of people who are taking supply out out of the market for retail buyers and go, well, actually, because in the UK it's quite desirable to own your own home, mentally speaking, then that's going to push prices up even further because there'll be a further reduction in supply beyond the fact that we're not building enough, that investors are holding back. So the reality in my mind is, and it's quite a complex question, and I think you need to pull all these different bits of information into your head, don't you? What percentage of people are buying and holding? How many homes are being sold every year? How many of those are going to investors? How many new houses being built? What the average population growth is? What the average household number is? You probably also need some wage increase and other things to go into your mind in order to build a full picture and a full model. But my mind is, in terms of whether investors have a play in this, I think investors do restrict the supply of properties, and because of that, they're going to push prices up. So for me, I think investors do have a very important part to play in the house price rise that's going on at the moment and will continue to do so. In my mind, I think that inflation will continue to creep up. I think wages will creep up. I think borrowing will stay nice and low. And because of all that accommodation, property prices will go up. I mean, for God's sake, the government are even telling us with the 95% mortgage where they're taking a 20% stake and they're saying we guarantee 20% of this mortgage. They're doing that in order to stimulate the growth even further. We're being told that property prices are going to continue to rise, probably by 20% over the next 3 to 4 years. Because that would mean that the government are able to stimulate property prices at zero cost and raise the overall wealth of the UK in order to potentially pay down this massive bill we've had for coronavirus. So me, I think investors do have an important part to play in the economy. I think that we do push prices up by restricting supply, but I'm massively interested in what you guys think. Let me know down in the comments. Do investors push prices up? That was the first initial question. And then the next question is that a good thing? Should investors be pushing prices up? Now, I've got my own opinions on that, and I might do another video about that, but ultimately, do investors push prices up? Down in the comments, and should they, and is it a good thing? Down in the comments. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. I'll see you on the next video. Cheers, guys.